So hello and welcome. This is great. This is the first time I've actually been here. So my name's Caroline from Dawes Gardens. Thank you, Amanda and MLSA, for having me here today, and obviously Brickworks for hosting this great function. I've been working in this fantastic industry for 23 years now, but my career started as my hobby. I was an avid gardener and I undertook horticulture study when I had two very young boys. Once they started school, I was faced with the question, what do I do now? I didn't want to go back to office work. Got into that 4-day-a-week thing. I didn't want to do any days a week, and was by this stage completely obsessed with gardens and plants. I started propagating plants and selling them at fairs, the ABC car park caper, all those sorts of places. After designing and installing a garden for a friend, she made me put up a sign up on her fence. The work started coming in, and after realising I wanted and needed to know more about design, went to study at the Urbray design course with Amanda and Pete, best class ever, with underneath the amazing Pam Gurner Hall, beautiful plants woman, and John Buchan, who was an English garden designer, but really, really clever. It has always been just me in my business, which started as income just to cover the school fees, but which became much more as time went on. My clients are 90% residential, and I also work with builders and developers. This group tend to require far less sustainability in their projects, and for me is a major challenge to try and incorporate this into my designs. I will always remember an experience I had with a large building company. I was asked to design the garden around their 2-story flagship display home. I placed one very appropriate tree, tall and slim, in the front garden, which had a westerly aspect. The debate around them wanting to remove this as it hid the house went, as you can probably imagine. I was not asked back again. If I had an ethos, it would be, and this is very tongue-in-cheek, saving the world one garden at a time. But I think there are many layers to that statement. Apart from the obvious benefits for the environment, I believe the mental well-being that comes from being outside in a wonderful garden is often underestimated. I have designed a healing garden at the Ashford Community Hospital, and the staff, patient and family feedback from having that space has simply been wonderful. Every garden is an opportunity to educate people in how to tread more lightly on this planet. Things that seem simply obvious to us in the industry is often a complete mystery to my clients. My design philosophy has always been to make a garden beautiful and functional, and importantly, one that will stand the test of time. A sustainable garden should be one that is not driven by fad, only to be ripped out and changed in years to come, but one that will be nurtured and grow into a green space that will be enjoyed for decades to come. To get to this point, a consultative approach with clients is vital. Asking the right questions and, if necessary, challenging the answers to get to a garden they will love and nurture is a key design philosophy for me. There are the obvious and known approaches to sustainability, but there are a few that I will always try to incorporate in my designs whenever my clients are winning. I must say here that in all my years of designing, I can count on one hand the number of times sustainability has been a design brief item. I think this may be due to an impression that sustainability equals composting, chooks, and high maintenance and messy gardens. But I'm confident that my design approach ticks that box without them having to ask for it. It's sustainability by stealth. It's also a fantastic opportunity to educate people as to the benefits, both environmental and health impacts, of a well thought out garden. It is always highly satisfying to me the number of clients who label themselves not gardeners, which that's why they come to us really, who once the process of designing and building the garden is done, feel more confident to get their hands dirty and take ownership of their garden. I think this is the ultimate skill of the designer, to design a garden that works for the clients to the point where they take ownership and start to realise the depths of nature and all its benefits. This is one garden that, that's Amanda's garden. Here we go. So this is Flagstaff Hill. This is 5 years old now, this garden. And I was faced when I came here, it was just rocks everywhere, and it was hot and awful. And my client said, we're just not gardeners. So the consultative approach that I use with all my clients is, I will always say, well, this is what we could do. And this is what it means if we do that. Once you get people thinking about all of that, then it's a lot easier to get them over the line with doing something like this. He is now an avid gardener. 5 years it took him. And, this was taken only a few weeks ago, and it's just brilliant. I'm always really, really so happy for people when they can achieve this and they learn about it as they go along. I will now outline a few of the main ways that I incorporate sustainability into my gardens. I bring as many of these as I can into each garden, and after many years of doing this, it is more innate than a conscious decision when designing. I have always approached my designs from a gardener's viewpoint and tend to nearly always start my designs with the trees and green spaces, where I would like them placed to throw the most shade, how many I think I can fit in without causing a maintenance nightmare for my clients, and then work in the functional things, pathways, entertaining areas, sheds, pools, etc. in around them. It's a bit arse about, but it works for me. Doesn't always, there's tweaking that has to happen always, but that's the way I approach it. Porous landscaping is an obvious one. I like to keep as much rainwater on the property as I can. This can be achieved in a variety of ways, with rain harvesting being one of them. However, with gardens getting smaller, the ability to do this in a meaningful way is becoming much harder and more expensive. So sometimes this is not really a viable option. So I try to keep as much moisture in the ground as possible with the use of gravel, steppers in ground cover, or laying pavers on a sand base, which when I started designing was as popular as the current obsession with direct stick paving we now find ourselves with. I was actually quite amazed recently when a landscaper who is well established and uses sustainable practices had never been asked to lay pavers on sand. It is something I will do more of if I can continue to find the products that suit that technique. However, wherever I can, I will recommend a gravel driveway. I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit overexposed aggregate concrete, just saying. I know it's great, but I'm a little bit over it. The stabilising effect of gravel around a house is well documented and is a more sustainable option than concrete. It is not for everyone, but I will always go there with my clients. Steppers with ground cover feature a lot in my gardens and is very popular with clients who are trying to be more conscious of sustainability while still having the functionality of a solid path. Trees, and lots of them. Perhaps my favourite treatment for the all-important trees is to have them placed in gravel. I always try to put as many trees in as possible. I don't think I need to go over the many benefits of trees with you all here today, but I sometimes need to with clients. One statement that often gets clients over the line with the concept of more trees is that they filter the rain as it falls to the ground, helping to ease the pressure on stormwater systems. I don't know why that particular statement does it, but it happens every time. I love using trees as pergolas, and I'm designing these wherever I can into my gardens. This is not actually my garden, but because the tree pergolas that I've done are not, what am I doing? But that's the concept of a tree pergola, which is just fabulous. Gravel is wonderful for many reasons: water retention and thus soil stabilising, cooling of the soil, a cheaper way to cover the ground. It is not for every client, but I certainly try to make clients understand why it could be a great option for them. Trees in gravel, gravel pathways, steppers in gravel. If I can, I will do it. Planting choices, this is an obvious one. Zoning of like-minded plants, creating microclimates, working with trees and plants in situ. I do use natives, but I prefer a mix of them with hardy perennials and ornamental grasses. I'm always on the lookout for new endemic plants that will help minimise water usage and create an environment where chemicals are not needed, and thus encouraging a healthy garden. Educating clients in how to actually water their gardens is also key to making their new garden sustainable. The old 20-minute squirt. Lawns are a debatable green space when it comes to sustainability. I love lawns. The way I look at it, it is much preferable to paving, and there are simply no good substitutes for a lawn for family traffic, dogs, and even for large gardens, where the spaces are simply too vast from a maintenance viewpoint to cover with gravel or garden. However, I do try to keep lawn spaces to a minimum to lessen the impact of a freshly mowed lawn. Recycling topsoil, plants, pavers, materials which are on site is something I will always try to cater for in my gardens. Recycled timber is always preferable. Clients love this one as they normally equate that to paying less money. Doesn't always happen, I use a lot of stone in my gardens, which are built by a wonderful stonemason called Steve, who builds them to last. I know concrete seats are the rage, and if a client really wants one, I will certainly design it. But where there is a choice, I will choose stone every time. So now we've got a few gardens where I think I'll just talk you through. So this is Norwood. The picture up the top is the before shot, and then at the bottom is the after. We had the big gum tree to work through. So I think in this garden, all the elements that I was just talking about, I've incorporated here. So the decking is recycled decking. The stone is there. That is actually compacted crushed rock. A small lawn because they had a little child. They need somewhere and they had a dog. So then I bought the paving in with the diamondia around it. And they do actually have some rainwater storage, which, as I said, it's becoming more and more of a luxury to be able to do that sort of rainwater storage with the gardens that are happening. But they had a little productive garden around the other side as well. So this garden won an award a while ago, and the clients are still loving it. That's the side, which we didn't change too much, but they needed a way to get through. So that's the recycled timber steppers, which go around to the side garden. And again, just introducing sand-laid pavers with some cobbles just to add some interest, cobbles surround just to add more interest around the tree, and yeah, just mulching. That is actually gravel under there, but it's a bit covered with gum leaves. Then, if I can get the next slide up, here we go. This is Hackney. Again, another garden that I was lucky enough to win an award for. Same sort of practices. I know there are birches in this picture, but I love birches. And again, I think if you place it, use it properly and get them established, they are great. And in gravel, they're happy because of the shallow root systems. But yes, if Trevor Notter was here, he'd be shooting me, but he's not. So again, the steppers with the diamondia, the gravel, the stone wall, again, steppers that are rubble laid with plants in between. This is a little one, which this space was all lawn when I got to this. So it is a little bit still English gardenish, but that's what she wanted. But we replaced all the lawn with what you see there. So again, the steppers with the thyme in between at this time, the gravel, little stone wall built by the beautiful Steve. And yeah, she was really loving that. And I think that's about it. Oh, that's just another one. So that's just a few examples of what I've tried to do with these sustainable gardens. We all have constraints when designing, and one is often the client. Preconceived ideas about gardens and how they work need to be talked through and realigned with a sustainable approach in mind. Pinterest has a lot going for it, but it also is a source of beautiful garden pictures that people would like and that simply aren't feasible here in Adelaide. The tropical garden is by far and away the main culprit. I think the real challenge for us today as designers is coping with the changing environment, both the natural and the human. Almost gone are the days of the completely inappropriate English flower garden with roses and cottage plants. A lot like the garden I grew up in, actually. But my parents didn't water the lawn. I mean, I remember a few times, those thingy ones, but we didn't have the manicured, beautiful green lawn. It was a bit crusty, and we didn't care. We are seeing the evolution of more natural forms of garden, and planting schemes are becoming fluid with the use of ornamental grasses and flowering perennials. It is a more relaxed style of garden, and one that I am doing often now as people become more accepting of that style. The icing on the cake is this type of garden is far more sustainable than our previous English garden obsessions. These gardens are more appropriate to where we live and create a place of refuge from the world. Sometimes when I go into garden and I can see hedging everywhere and roses everywhere, I don't know about you, but I get a little bit anxious. So I feel like these more natural gardens can actually be a more soothing place to be sometimes. We are seeing new suburbs popping up in bushfire-prone areas, which sees heavy restrictions of the use of trees near houses. Not that some of these houses even have room for a tree. Mount Barker is a disgrace. Apologise if anybody lives there. And I don't understand for 1 second how sustainability has been taken into account there. And the dark grey roofs, it is baffling to me. I actually try to avoid going that way as it makes me so anxious to see what is happening there and in other development areas of Adelaide. Garden design is no more only about beauty. We need to consider council restrictions and also clients' wishes for recreational spaces that more and more are taking up most of the available garden space. People are busier, gardens have to behave themselves, and they have to work hard. Against this backdrop, I feel that sometimes sustainable design is under pressure, and I think the way I will approach it is how I've always approached it, to do what I can every time I can. The way towards greater sustainability is to make it easy for people to say yes to it. Make it a no-brainer. And the easiest way to get people to say yes is to make sustainable gardens affordable and easy to look after without compromising quality and beauty. This is where we as designers come into play with excellent design and in knowing about landscaping techniques and products that can offer options to fit all budgets, to help save the world one garden at a time. Thank you.